Yes, I know that's probably an underlying issue with me. Let's move on from that. Sorry, this is about to trigger some of you guys. I fear might be the total complete opposite side of the spectrum. Anyways. We are back here again. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Why was I about to introduce myself? I was about to be like, I am Bryn Green. Anyways, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a video for you, okay? I love doing these videos, obviously. I just love to yap about books. So that is what today's video is going to be. I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in January. And honestly, I think I had a very good start to the year, like book-wise. Not really life-wise, but book-wise, I had a very great start to the year. I didn't really have many low ratings this month, which is actually surprising. I also had 0 DNFs. Like, can we give myself a round of applause for that one? I have a total of 5 books to go over in today's video, so let's go ahead and let's get started. I don't really know where I want to start. I know that I have like it all in my notes because I am such a notes person this year, but I really don't know where to start. I think honestly I'll start with the physical books that I own and then we'll get into all the Kindle books that I read, because if there's one thing that I'm going to be reading on, it's going to be my Kindle. Like, I think I want to start on a high note this month. So the first book is none other than Normal People by Sally Rooney. Now, I've been meaning to read this book for like a year now, which is absolutely insane, but I've been like so nervous about this book because it's like total mixed reviews. You either love it or you absolutely hate it, and I'm just really scared of absolutely hating something. So I was very nervous to go into this book. I think that I read it in a reading vlog, which I'll link in the eye in the corner right now if you guys want to go watch that reading vlog. But I literally loved this book. I gave it a 5 stars. If you guys don't know the premise of this book or you've never heard about this book, let me explain it really quick to you guys and then I'll give you guys my actual opinions on it. Following these 2 main characters, Connell and Marianne, and it's kind of just following their friendship slash relationship slash, honestly, I would classify it as just like confusion for almost like half of their lives. It is a very, very long trajectory. I think it was taking place in like 20 something years. And I feel like honestly, like Book Talk will talk about this book as a romance book. And I guess at its core it is, but I think it was a lot more than that to me personally, because both of these characters, like the things that they were struggling with were just like so deep that it was like very hard to read this book and get through it without like feeling a lot of emotions, I guess is the best way to put it. Now, I guess the idea of these characters is obviously they are just normal people. Normal people struggle. So that's kind of like the whole idea of this book. I'm gonna be honest here, okay? I did give this book 5 stars, but I was not the biggest fan of one of our main characters, Marianne. Now that is honestly like out of the blue for me because I'm normally the biggest fan of our girl main characters. I'm normally like an avid hater of the men. Yes, I know that's probably an underlying issue with me. Let's move on from that, okay? I feel like Marianne was just kind of obviously going through a lot. Like her childhood was really rough and just kind of you just watch her grow up, and it's definitely difficult like throughout the entire book for her, but the way that she deals with things emotionally is like wholeheartedly based on like how she grew up, and glad that I got to see how she grew up so I could cut her some slack. But I don't know, sometimes I was just like, Marianne? Sometimes Marianne actually made me want to light myself in flames, but it's okay. And honestly guys, if you follow me on Goodreads, you know my opinion on Connell. Like, I normally don't actually type out reviews in Goodreads. I save it for my YouTube channel, but I love Connell's character. Just watching him like grow up in the trajectory of his life, like I'm at a loss for words. I think that I relate to Connell and like I like Connell a lot because he deals with like anxiety and depression, and I was just like, oh my god, he is me, I'm him. Like if there was a carbon copy of me in like male form, it would be Connell. I'm so happy that I liked this book because I was really, really nervous about it. I'm trying to see if there's some quotes that I want to share because there always is. It says, since then, Connell's mental state has steadily, week after week, continued to deteriorate. His anxiety, which was previously chronic and low level, serving as kind of an all-purpose inhibiting impulse, has become severe. His hands start tingling when he has to perform minor interactions like ordering coffee or answering a question in class. Once or twice he's had major panic attacks, hyperventilation, chest pain, pins and needles all over his body, a feeling of dissociation from his senses. A feeling of dissociation from his senses, his inability to think straight or interpret what he sees and hears. Things begin to look and sound different, slower, artificial, unreal. The first time it happened, he thought he was losing his mind, that the whole cognitive framework by which he made sense of the world had disintegrated for good, and everything from then on would just be undifferentiated sound and color. The whole cognitive framework by which he made sense of the world. I'm gonna cry, and it's only the first book I'm talking about. I'm so sorry. Another one I want to share says, Marianne thinks cruelty does not only hurt the victim, but the perpetrator also, and maybe more deeply and more permanently. You learn nothing very profound about yourself simply by being bullied, but by bullying someone else, you learn something you can never forget. It says, none of these people had done anything wrong. They were just grieving. If people appeared to behave pointlessly in grief, it was only because human life was pointless, and this was the truth that grief revealed. The last quote I want to share from Normal People says, all these years they've been like 2 little plants sharing the same pot of soil, growing around one another, contorting to make room, taking certain unlikely positions, but in the end she has done something for him. She's made a new life possible, and she can always feel good about that. Like, I could genuinely never give somebody my copy of this book to read because the amount of things that are underlined and I feel like just spoke to my soul. I'm like, oh, no one needs to know me on that deep of a level, truly. So let's move on. Okay, everyone, the next book that I want to talk about is maybe my most anticipated read of the year. Just because I read the first book, hold on, I guess I'll give you a hint by showing you the first book. I read the first book, Wild Love by Elsie Silver, like in December of 2024, which was literally a month ago. Like, I don't know why I'm saying it like, oh, I read it December 2024. Like, hey, that was like a few weeks ago. Let's pipe down, Bryn. But I gave this book a 5 stars, and honestly, ever since I read this book, I was literally like on my knees, like begging to read Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, and I finally got around to it, okay? I feel like honestly this entire month I've been just slowly reading this book. This book honestly probably made an appearance in like every single vlog that I posted this month because I've just been like slowly and surely reading it. But honestly, guys, I think I'm gonna give this book a 4 stars. I think that's the rating that I'm going to just stick at. I feel like I always set myself up for failure because Wild Love was a book that I loved so much, so I feel like I hyped up Wild Eyes like too much in my head to where when I actually read it, it wasn't a letdown really by any means, but like kinda sorta. In this book, you're following characters West and Skylar. Now, West actually is like a character from the first book, Wild Love. He is the brother of one of the main characters in Wild Love. And honestly, I just feel like Elsie Silver has the most perfect way of writing. Like, it's nothing too crazy. It doesn't like completely, you know, destroy me, but it's not like her writing is like, for lack of a better term, Wattpad-y at the same time. Skylar is actually a very popular like country artist, and she ends up going into Rose Hill because there's also a place called Rose Hill Records. I'm so sorry, like this is such back and forth. I'm trying to make it make sense, but it's probably not going to. Rose Hill Records is owned by Ford, which is one of the main characters in this book, also West's best friend. All a conjoined circle. It's like, oh, these people, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit confusing. I feel like I'm like giving you guys a whole family tree. I literally need to like pop up a family tree at this point. I honestly don't want to give anything else away, like for fear of spoiling the first book, but also for fear of spoiling this one. As you guys know, I'm like the biggest hater, like the most avid hater. If you looked up like biggest hater of small town romances, I would be the one getting the award. Like, I absolutely hate small town romances because I live in a small town and like it really sucks. Like, but for some reason, like the Rose Hill series is an exception. I love it. I love it so much. And I do have a few quotes to share. I did like, sorry, this is about to trigger some of you guys, but I did like dog ear some of my pages because I was just like, hey, I'm gonna need to share some quotes, and my phone does not have any more storage space left. Like, anyways, let me read a few quotes from this book before we move on. I feel like I'm reading you guys like scripture, but in reality, I'm reading you guys a quote from a small town romance book, which I fear might be the total complete opposite side of the spectrum. It says, I'm no open book, but it seems as though all Wes needs to do is look at the cover to know something's wrong. He sees past all the vibrant colors, all the shiny foiling. One of the main reasons that I think I liked this book so much was not even because I actually really liked the main characters. Like, I loved Wes in this book. I'm not the hugest fan of Skylar. I feel like I liked her the more and more the story went on. I think the whole point was to kind of dislike her at the beginning. Okay, I loved West in the first book too. He has always been so funny. Like, I'm sorry, not to hype up a man. He's fictional, so it's okay. Honestly, like every single joke that would be made in the first book and the second book by West, I'm like laughing out loud. And then I would have to have like an out-of-body experience every time it happened because I would like look around the room after I just laughed and I'm like, oh, so I am laughing at a book, okay. Skylar says, I think I saw something in the trees. And then West replies and says, was it your ability to lie fleeing the premises? This one says, I think if you're going to be in a solid relationship with someone, you need to be friends on some level, like enjoy each other's company, you know? Okay, this is the last quote that I'm going to share from this book. It says, I think they're a little scared of the view I've got now, a little worried about what I might find with my feet firmly planted on the ground. I think what I'm finding is myself and the knowledge that I won't let what they've done to me stand. Like, characters can be broken but still be fully fledged out, and I feel like that's what a lot of authors are missing. Whereas Elsie Silver, for example, she makes her characters like so broken and bruised, and they always have, you know, other things happening. Like, it's not always just the romance happening in the book, but at the same time, like, they feel so real. Like, they are so fully fledged out with their own thoughts and opinions and beliefs, and I don't know. I need to cut myself off because I actually think I will never shut up about Elsie Silver's writing. Like, I think I'll love it till the day I die. Okay, everyone, we are now moving into like uncharted territory. These are all of the Kindle books that I read this month. First one I want to start with is none other than Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Now, I think that I've been talking about wanting to read that book for maybe like 1 or 2 years now on my channel. I finally got around to doing it. I feel like the start of a new year is like the only time that I will actually start following my TBR. New fresh start, you know what I mean? So I was reading a lot of books that I've been on my TBR for a while, and one of those was Lessons in Chemistry. So basically the whole idea of the book is you're following our main character, Elizabeth Zott, and following her trajectory of life. Like, it's really done in the way of like an autobiography, but it's not an autobiography, if that makes any sense. It's definitely different than any of the other books that I've read, but I loved it nonetheless. I gave that book a 4 stars. I think the quotes and everything in that book, and like the way that it talks about feminism and like world views and literally everything about like womanhood, it just had me speechless like the entire time. And I just loved the book so much. Like, I don't really want to give you guys a lot from that book just because I want you guys to go into it blind. I gave that book a 4 stars. Like, I'm not saying it because it's like the most feminist book type of thing, but honestly, I think that every woman should read that book. Like, everything that Elizabeth Zott went through and like was struggling with even mentally was just, it was very relatable. And even though I couldn't relate to the actual situations that she went through, I was like feeling the pain for her. I was feeling the grief for her. I was feeling the love for her. Everything in all of it, all at one time. I feel like the main reason it's not a 5-star read for me is just simply because I feel like if I read it again, it would just bore me a little bit, because the actual plot line of the book was not really what was holding the weight for me. It was more so the character study and society study that was happening, and all of that stuff held more weight to me than the actual plot line of the book. So that is the only reason why it's a 4 stars, but I genuinely think that everyone should read that book. It is so good. I will shut up about it now. The next book that I want to talk about is none other than Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Now, I'm gonna say this, and I don't want you guys to like think of this in the wrong way, but I did give Anxious People a 3 stars. Honestly, I thought that it would be my favorite Frederick Bachman book because, hey, newsflash, I have anxiety. I feel like the whole idea of the book was what was like speaking to me, and the second I was like, oh, the title's Anxious People, like, and it's by Frederick Bachman, like, this is the book for me. That was what I was thinking going into it. But honestly, guys, it did let me down a little bit. Don't want that to take away from Frederick Bachman's writing, because I love his writing. Like, I literally will die for him. Not even a joke. Like, if Frederick Bachman called me up and was like, hey, like, I need someone to actually die for me and perish away from me right now, like, oh, I do it in the drop of a hat. Oh, I'm there. Don't worry, I'm there. This book just didn't really do it for me, honestly. And let me explain, okay? Because I want you guys to take this like with a grain of salt. Now, it being a Frederick Bachman book, it obviously had like a lot of deeper conversations that were brought up, a lot of like, you know, just more emotional and impactful things that were mentioned in the book and just talked about. And obviously that did trigger me a little bit. I'll be completely honest and open about that, because trigger warning, there were talks about suicidal ideations. There were talks about like that actually occurring. I believe there were also talks about eating disorders in this, and obviously other talks were about like depression and anxiety and just all of the different things that I feel like trigger me a little bit. But I do feel like, as usual, Frederick Bachman is like the best person in my opinion to write about those heavier topics, because he just has a way of like saying it outright, but then kind of reeling it back in and bringing back in the lightheartedness of the story and not making it feel like so deep and heavy that you're just like, oh, I can't continue reading this book. It's actually putting me through like mental pain. I think the only reason that I didn't like the book is because of the plot line. Now, let me explain the plot line, okay? Because this is where it's going to make sense to you guys why I gave it a 3 stars. Now, the whole idea of this book is that you're following like these police interviews, and then you're also following like the past timeline where the actual event occurred. And the whole event is that a guy goes to rob a bank, and then it ends up turning into a hostage situation, and then you're kind of just following the interviews of the people who were held hostage, and then you're going back in time to when the actual event occurred. I honestly loved the interviews, and I loved whenever the people would talk like with their therapist and things like that, because I feel like that was truly where all of the deeper conversations were coming out. But then when we would go into past timeline where the actual event of the hostage situation was occurring, it was just like too unserious. But I feel like the deeper conversations were too far right field, and the lighthearted conversations were too far left field, that they didn't really intersect correctly in my opinion. Like, at one point there was literally a guy dressed up as a bunny rabbit coming out of the bathroom like during the hostage situation. I was like, this is so, like, did we not just have a conversation about like depression 2 seconds ago? Did we not just do that, or am I hallucinating? Like, I want to go back to when Zara was sitting down with her therapist. Like, I need more of that. I don't need more of a bunny rabbit, like a guy dressed up as a bunny rabbit walking out of a bathroom. Like, that's weird. It went from being really serious to really unserious, and I do love when Frederick Bachman's writing does that, but I feel like this time it was just too different. You know what I mean? I feel so bad like talking about one of his books like this, because I truly love his writing so much. Like I said before, I would literally die for him, so Please take that with a grain of salt. I'm like, I still love you, Frederick Bachman, I swear. Okay, everyone, we are finally on our last leg of today's video. The final book that I want to talk about is none other than Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. Now, one thing about Lila Sage is she's kind of similar to Elsie Silver to me. The small town romances, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's still fully fledged out characters. I do love Lila Sage's writing. I feel like it's a little bit easy. Like, it's really not doing too much, but I love it for that, okay? Because you guys know, like, need to find another book to read, but I so badly just want to read, like, a little bit of a cringier book. Then I pick a Lila Sage book. It's just, that's the way my life works. Like, I'll be so bored and it's like 10 o'clock at night, I don't want to go to bed yet. So then I open my Kindle, I go to the Libby app, I'm like, Lila Sage. Okay, like, I could get behind this. So I did read Swift and Saddled, and by the way, I did give it a 4 stars. I feel like, honestly, going into it, you just have to expect, like, a very easy, simple romance. Like, it's really not anything crazy. You don't need it to be, though. Like, that is the difference, is because I didn't really expect much from the book. By the way, this is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which is, like, the only other small town romance book series that I'm okay with. But I don't even know if I would consider okay with it, because I'm not, like, I'm really not the biggest fan of Lila Sage, or, like, her book series or her books in general, but I'm just like if you need a palate cleanser book that you can read in like less than 24 hours, like, Lila Sage is always my go-to girl for that. It's also funny because it's like never that serious. And it kind of low-key gives a similar vibe to the Rose Hill Ranch series, because it's all like happening on this little like farm/ranch, and like each one of the main characters in the book series, like one of them is like the sibling of the last one in the last book, and it's kind of like all intertwining. Do you know what I mean? So like, even just the family dynamic, like I am the biggest fan of Weston's dad. Like, he is so funny every time, and I'm just like, I wish he could get a book, but he's not gonna get a book. So I just need to give up. But I don't know, I feel like sometimes I just need a book that's really unserious and it's not like anything crazy. Like, I don't really have to lock in, for lack of a better term, when I read a Lila Sage book. I loved it. I gave it a 4 stars. So with all that being said, that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know that I will never shut up, okay? Like, I'm so sorry that you had to sit here and listen to this, but I hope that you got something out of it, okay? I hope you got a book recommendation. Hope you maybe got a laugh. I feel like I'm just a very laughable person. Hope you got something out of this video, okay? Because I just stared into space. Pretend that this video is coming out after the reading vlog that will be out after this one, because I'm filming this a little bit prematurely. Like, I did already read Wild Eyes. It's just gonna be out of order because a reading vlog takes me longer to edit and film, so hope that makes sense. Just pretend that when you watch next week's video that you didn't already hear my opinions on some of these books. Okay, thank you. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out all my socials links in the description box down below, and I'll see you guys next week for yet another video. Goodbye.